Hello everyone, welcome to the day 2 of React with TypeScript. So in earlier couple of projects, we have seen very basic types, primitive types, strings and numbers. So today I want to discuss about little bit more complex types. How can we, give types to the objects or list of objects. So today I want to make a project called to-do list. It will take you input from user, maybe sugar, salt, and we can render here over the screen. So let's start with this. Let's first create a folder called to do and create a basic UI and import that to our app.cs and app.tsx and see if it is running. So we will create one folder called to do. Let's create one file called to do.tsx. Export this function. Let's import this in our app.tsx. Let's run it. Yeah, this is working fine. So let's create our UI. So there are two parts for our UI. First is the user input and second is rendering the list. So let's start with the user input. So for storing our user input, let's create one state called user input. Set user input to state. Let's initialize it to string. So our user input will always be a string. So let's give it a type as string. Now our user input will be input, value will be user input. Okay. And on chain we can have one callback function to handle this on chain. Let's write it down as well. Let's write this down. We can implement this function later. Let's add our button. Add. Okay, this looks fine. Let's add the functionality to handle our on chain. So it will just be we are setting the user input. It will be dot target dot value. So this throws an error. Let me just fix this. So this throws a warning is an explicit type. Okay. Yeah, even we can do this as well, or if you want, we can just hover over this and copy this and give it over here. Let's see if it is working. This is working fine now. Now let's create our to-do list. So for to-do list, let's create one state called to-do list. Set to-do list use state. Let's give it as an empty array. Initialize it as an empty array because it will be an array. It's a list of to-do items. And what will be our type? So I think the to-do will be an list of object, and every to-do item will have an ID, unique ID to identify that item in case we want to modify it or delete it, and the content which contains the data. So let's do it. ID will be a number in our case. It can be a object, so not an object or maybe a string or base64 string or anything. Let's keep it as simple and make it an object, and content which will be a string. So it will be an array of to do. So let's write to do, and just like this we can define it as an array of to do. If you go here, it will be an array of to do. You can write the whole thing over here as well, but I think it would be better to write it this way and not to complicate it over here. If you want it, you can just copy it here and write it. It will still work. Let's map this list. It will be an ordered list. Let's make it an ordered list, and we will map to do list dot map item comma other value is content. Okay. Let's return it. Let's give key as an ID as in key, sorry, and let's give the content over here. Okay. It looks fine. Initially the data is, the array is empty, the list is empty. Let's give it some value. Initial list. So it is a list. Let's give it some value. ID1 content sort. Let's render it. Okay. Spelling is incorrect, but yeah, this looks fine. This is working fine. Let's try to handle this. Like once you click the add button, it should add to our list. So let's write this functionality. On click will handle add button. Let's write this callback function. So we will just add our user input to the to-do list, and for the key I will use the length of the to-do list. So initially it will be, our ID will be 0, next time it will be 1, it will be 2, 3 and so on. So let's do that. Const new to-do list. So ID will be to-do list dot length, and content will be our user input. So what I mean by this is, the ID will be the length, so it will be increment by 1 every time. So initially it will be 0 because the length is 0, then it will be 1, 2, 3 and so on, and just set it to new to-do list. And let's clear the user input as well once you set the add the item. Okay, let's add salt, sugar, jaggery. Yeah, this looks fine. Thank you everyone for watching this video. If you like the video, please like, share and subscribe, and check out my other videos from the same playlist. Thank you everyone.